Trump just dropped a tariff bombshell. The market's feeling the pressure, and Tesla had a wild ride on Monday. Plus, Nvidia and GME are making moves, and Powell is set to speak this Friday. Will his words send stocks soaring or sinking? We've got all the angles. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Stonkcast, the market show for the average Joe. Whether you're a diamond-handed degenerate scouring the market for the next 500% play, or a cautious investor or swing trader looking for steady gains, we've got you covered. We break down the biggest market news, give our takes, and maybe, just maybe, help you make some money along the way. I am Brandon Shar along with Ethan Harris. Ethan, how you doing?
Hey, doing good. What about you?
It is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, smack dab in the middle of the trading week. And it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And to give you some insight into what we were talking about earlier during the day, I texted Brandon and I said, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Nothing's happened. And Brandon kept hitting me with one point after another. And
So much.
I just kept saying, besides that. It wasn't hitting me as hard this week. I don't know. I've been very distracted, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, man, have you been under a rock or what? Well, let's hop right into it. Tariff news. President Donald Trump. We have some updates. Obviously, tariffs have been rocking the market lately. That's kind of been the hot topic. And so let's kick it off with Trump tariffs. So Trump says tariffs on external agricultural products to begin April 2nd. So this is kind of a new update. This came out, when was this? March 3rd. And so basically, he said on Truth, to the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external product on April 2nd. Have fun. So that's the latest on the tariff updates as it relates to this industry, I guess you could say. So Trump wants to stop exporting, all the food, basically, right, Ethan? He wants to keep it in house. That's what we got there. Any thoughts on that? How that might impact the market?
Well, I think it's kind of contradictory because uh, I haven't followed exactly what programs were shut down or what funding was shut down with USAID or USAID, but I'm fairly certain that a lot of incentives for kickbacks and whatnot for farmers was one of them. And so I will say this is one thing that doesn't jive when you look at the pieces, because on the one hand, the big farmers are losing a lot of federal funding, and then on the second, they're being told, "Hey, you can start building up some business here by selling, I guess, internally in the U.S. and developing in the U.S." So I guess it'll eventually balance out, but I don't know. It kind of, if I were somebody who my industry was farming right now, I would be looking very hesitantly towards the future. But, I guess that just gives an opportunity. That's just an opportunity for farmers and big ag and whatnot to double down on domestic sales. But I guess Purdue, you want to think about somebody who's selling and growing in the U.S. I don't know, buy stock in Purdue. They're going to be pumping out some local chickens here soon. They're
Yeah,
probably
we're gonna get.
pretty hard anyways by the bird flu.
Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, you're going to want to pay attention to just the overall food industry stateside for the impacts of these tariffs. But we still have a little bit of time before they go into effect, April. So we got a month there. But that wasn't the only news we got from Trump. We actually got another tariff update that came out today at 2:03 p.m. According to The Hill, Trump announces 1 month delay on Canada-Mexico tariffs for cars. just for cars. So for the automaker industry, President Trump on Wednesday announced a 1 month exemption on tariffs against Canada and Mexico for cars following a meeting with the three major US automakers. So he basically spoke to Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, hope I pronounced that right, on the heels of imposing 25% tariffs on all imports from Mexico and Canada on Tuesday. Following these discussions, Trump said in a statement read by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt that the administration is giving a 1 month exemption for automakers associated with the US Mexico Canada trade agreement, which Trump signed during his first term. So basically, the exemption would apply to Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, as well as other companies with production facilities in the three North American countries. So this is interesting. So we're delaying that. So if, one way to look at this, you could be bullish on, Ford, General Motors, right, on the short term, I guess, until those tariffs kick in. But yeah, there's really just been a flurry of tariff and really just political news. We had the joint session last night where Trump gave one of, I think, the longest speech on record. I think he beat out Bill Clinton, which was an hour and 30 minutes. He did an hour and 40 last night. Take that top spot. So I stayed up for most of it, not the whole thing. But he was obviously kind of laying out his plan, right? And highlighting how many executive orders they've kind of pushed through already. As he said last night, this is just the beginning.
The most executive orders issued within the first month of a presidency, besides George Washington. Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think he did say that. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Al Green getting kicked out. That was fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. I did not see that coming. I'm sure there was a bet somewhere on Vegas for, the over under on how long it would take for someone to get kicked out. But after that, the Democrats seemed fairly quiet for the most part. They were still kind of rowdy here and there. It made for a good show, Whether you're on the left or the right, it was an entertaining evening for sure. And I heard today that those kind of joint sessions back in the day before TV, I forget which president, but a president long, long ago used to just send a letter to Congress to update them. And now, obviously, with the evolution of TV, and it's literally become this new theatrical, venue. So, but yeah, so that was last night. And look, from a trading perspective, this is a market show, right? So from a trading perspective, when Trump says something like, this is just the beginning, that should put you on your heels, or I shouldn't say that. It sounds negative. What I mean is you should stay on your toes as a trader because, yeah, stay on your toes as a trader because this is just the beginning of the tariff news. There can be updates any given minute on this stuff, and the way that impacts the market can vary to different degrees depending upon what's happening. I mean, take this for example, right? This is specific to automakers. There could be other developments related to tariffs for other industries, other sectors. And so if you're an active trader, those are news highlights you want to be on top of.
Yeah, you said, things happen so quickly. And I just hopped on to Truth Social. I'll show you real quick just because it's so fascinating seeing, like, just an hour ago, government funding runs out next week and Democrats are threatening to shut down the government. So I feel like government funding running out, we hear it all the time, multiple times a year, I feel like, where the shutdown is coming, the shutdown is coming. And I think that this would probably affect, SPY in general, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just seeing
So that was how long ago?
just an hour ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So that's interesting because if we are in a scenario where that could be a legitimate concern on the table, yeah, I agree with you. That's going to affect the markets negatively. I think we've kind of seen that arise the past couple years here and there. I mean, the markets generally, they don't like that. So definitely something to pay attention to. All right. Anything else you want to touch on there for the tariffs? It's a lot of juicy
I
content
feel
for
like we
48
could,
hours.
yeah, I feel like we could make like just a dedicated show to this. Um,
100%.
I One thing I will note, and then we can move on to our next point, is I think the walk back, if you could call it a walk back, I mean, he's just extending a grace period of a month before the tariffs initiate. But I know I don't know if it's a premier of Canada or a an up and coming premier, but I read the statement from a female premier, maybe, who she was basically saying and threatening and implying that if Trump moved forward with the tariffs, that the Northeast would be greatly affected by that because they would begin to withdraw maybe energy support. I suppose they provide maybe hydroelectric based energy or maybe liquid petroleum based energy. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I don't know if it's like, is this a walk back specifically based on those kind of chest thumping from Canada? I'm not really sure because I think the other statistic I saw was how Canada, I'm not sure if it's based on exports or specifically with the auto industry, but they topped like three countries combined as far as being one of the biggest customers for the US. So this
Yeah.
is this kind of back and forth. It's not meaningless and it's not minuscule, and it is something that the market is going to heavily react to and continue to be volatile. I mean, just this week it's been a pretty dramatic week as far as watching, and to think that I said nothing was happening this week. But
Yeah,
that,
when you said that, I was like, Ethan,
we'll continue to get into that. But yeah, that's all I got.
great. All right. And yeah, that's a good transition into our next topic here. So, it's nice when you're right. It's really nice when you're right. Man, it really gives the show some credibility. Ethan and I both were on our pedestals on Sunday talking about how the markets were bearish, markets look bearish. And, we put some positions on and in the paper trading account, and, they're, they're looking pretty good. The markets, had a rough start to the week. We saw VIX go as high as, I believe, 26 on the VIX. It was up 20%, I believe, on Monday. That is absurd. We just got done talking last episode, Ethan, about how 10% in a day on the VIX is bad news, and we saw double that on Monday to start the day off. So, we talked a little bit about Tesla. We talked about how potentially we could see, beginning of the week, not a ton of news. There were some things here and there, but there wasn't a ton of economic news. And so I believe I had said something to the effect that it could be possible to see, Tesla kind of have some bullish action to begin the week, but then it would fade off. And I think overall in the market, I said I was neutral to bearish. Well, there was no Monday bull run. We hopped right into the bear run. If we take a look here at Tesla on Monday, this was it was an interesting day. Let's take a look here, zoom in. So this was Monday on Tesla. So basically overnight, right? Sunday evening, head in Monday morning pre-market, right? Tesla was getting a bit of a lift from the overall futures, on SPY, NASDAQ, basically the futures markets when they opened up, Sunday evening, got a little bit of a bump. I think they were up, 30%, 40%. And so Tesla caught a bit of a lift from that. But then if we drill down here onto, let's see, let's take a look at the hour chart. So if we go back, yeah, so this is Monday, right? So we got this lift, as you can tell here. Some stocks will trade on Sunday night. The ones that are kind of larger might be open on Sunday night, as crazy as that sounds. And Tesla is one of those, as you can tell here. This is Sunday evening. And so we got the overnight trading, got a little bit of a lift. And then this is Monday at the open, right? So we dropped down to 291. We climb back up here to 303. And for a brief moment in time, Ethan, it looks like we might get that push up, as I was alluding to last episode, to like 320. But then quickly the bears stepped in and dropped this down, and then it was just downhill from here on Monday. So, as I said on Sunday, I was going to be looking for calls on Tesla to begin the week, but then, maybe 2-3 weeks out, be looking for puts. One of the important things for active traders is to be agile. You have to be able to change your opinion quickly. Strong convictions held weakly, as I always like to say. Heard that from a famous trader, and I've always liked it because it's so true. So my conviction on Tesla being bullish on Monday quickly died off just a couple hours into the day, and I flipped and bought puts, and thankfully was able to ride this down and catch some nice gains along with VIX too. I bought some VIX calls, and Ethan and I have been talking about how our VIX positions in the paper trading account been looking very swell, along with Ethan's Nvidia puts. So we'll get into that as well. But let me just hop on a pedestal here real quick before I go into some of the details of this. One of the things that I think is very important when it comes to any kind of financial show like what Ethan and I are trying to provide here is transparency, right? There are a ton of YouTube channels out there, and just really shady individuals that like to, say they're making millions of dollars in the market when they're really not. There's a lot of individuals that like to prop up their services for, trading bot services, if you will, and try to sell you a program or sell you trades. And a lot of them are, pretty scammy. Is that fair to say, Ethan?
And it's easy to fool and manipulate people, and that's why you shouldn't idolize anyone on the internet, and entirely base your decisions based on what maybe they're doing. And it's easy to manipulate what you see on a screen. It's easy to, I'll leave it at that. It's just very easy for people to be fooled and for people to submit evidence very convincingly.
Yeah. So, one thing that Ethan and I have talked about that we want to pride ourselves on here on Stonkcast is transparency, right? Whether it's good or bad. And so, with Tesla, thankfully on Monday it was good. And here's the receipts to prove it, right? So March 3rd, this is one of my accounts, Robinhood account, right? So I bought 2 contracts, Tesla, the 240 puts, for $66 each. And then I was able to sell one of them for 268 and another one for 247. And then I think the VIX one might be in here too. Let me see. I don't know. I lost it. But anyways, here's the receipt for it, right? So it was a very nice day. VIX made 137, Tesla 181, and 202 here. So about $500 on the day. For some people, that's pennies. I was happy with that. It was just riding the momentum of Tesla, and I think that's one of the things that's really important when you are trading is to keep in mind what the big picture is, right? I had a lot of confidence in this trade that was going to the downside because there was a lot of factors in play, a lot of confluence, I guess you could say, right? The market overall was down. VIX was going up. And we've already talked about what Tesla looks like on a daily chart. This is bearish action, right? And so I was trading with the trend. The trend was going down and I was riding with it. So yeah, that was Tesla on Monday. As of right now, we bounced off that 270, which has been a really important level. We had a bullish day today. That's a great close, but we're still underneath that 200-day moving average, sitting at 280 now. So tomorrow's going to be a really important day. Look, I would be open to some calls on Tesla if we get a daily candle that closes above the 200-day moving average that looks similar to this, that looks bullish. But if tomorrow we reject off this and we hover back down 270, Then on Friday, Monday next week, I'm going to be looking for more action to the downside on Tesla. That's any thoughts on Tesla before I move on, Ethan?
I have nothing to support it beyond just looking at the chart now, but I could see it Tesla just like crab walking tomorrow and probably not you maybe not seeing as much downwards momentum from 280. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's nothing more than just seeing what the action did so far this week.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then real quick, just wanted to again, in an effort to be transparent, we obviously have the paper trading account, but I shared with Ethan I started a live account and I plan on giving brief updates on it here on Stockcast. And look, I work a full-time job. I have 2 kids. I'm a busy man, just like Ethan, right? I don't always have, you know, hours in the day to comb through hundreds of charts to look for setups. So I do like to occasionally leverage different types of trade ideas out in the trading community. But when you're doing that, you have to make sure that you know when you're getting out of the trade if you plan on getting in. You can't rely on somebody to tell you when to get in, when to get out. So with this account that I'm about to show you, I will be, for the most part, leveraging trade ideas from, a different Discord that I'm in that, gives out different trade ideas. But it's the onus is still on me, right? As far as risk management, as far as when I'm getting in and out of an idea, and not all of them are going to work out. But I like at the stage of my career, I guess, until I get to a place where, Lord willing, I'm fortunate enough to have the time and the resources to, kind of build out some of my own ideas. I do like to leverage some of the community, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you think of like successful prop firms, that's exactly what they do, right? You have a floor full of traders sharing trading ideas with one another. Sure, they all have their own edge and their own trading styles, but that's how traders tend to be successful, is when you can be in a community. And that's another reason why part of the reason why we started the show is to give financial news and updates on the markets and to help, whoever wants to join to maybe have the possibility to, spot some things in the market and get some trading ideas that maybe they weren't privy to. So, anyways, all that to say, I'll get off my pedestal. So, this is my Webull account. I opened this with $1,000 balance, and today was not the greatest day to start off. I'm currently down 4% on it. I took 4 really dumb trades this morning while I was at work because I was just bored and I wanted some action on the market. I didn't have a plan to get in, I didn't have a plan to get out. I was just hoping. Hopium is a horrible thing in trading and will ruin your account. Thankfully, on those 4 positions, I did stick to my risk management, which is 2% per trade idea. So all in all, 4 losses only put me down about $90. And right now, these are some of the trades I have open that you can see over here. I have some calls on ANF, JD, which is an earnings play coming out tomorrow. SOM, I got calls on that, INTC, and then I have a put on Macy's, which is coming out with their earnings tomorrow. It's currently trading at a 52-week low. So these are some of the positions I have on. And as you can tell from the position size over here, all of them are just about 10% of my total account value. So trying to stick to 10% position sizing, risking 2% overall, and really risk management is what is going to keep you in the game. So this will be fun. I'm kind of doing it for a selfish reason. I want to make sure I have accountability with this, and it'll be fun to see if we can kind of grow this along with the Stockcast paper trading account. Yeah, more to come on that. So we'll see what happens with those positions. Ethan, I mean, as well as I do that it's hard to find transparency in this market. this finance realm on YouTube. And so I think it's really important for us to kind of be a leader in that. That's kind of what we envision. So that's what I got.
Yeah. And we did have one comment that from Sugar Booga Mama. She said, I need, all caps, need a crash course on candles. All I know is how to pick ones that smell nice. Next episode, maybe?
Listen, I love Yankee Candle. If I walk in there, I look slightly autistic because I will spend an hour just smelling all the different candles. And then my wife tells me that those are bad for me and they'll give me cancer. So I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I love a good Yankee Candle. So, but yes, we definitely will put together kind of a crash course on candle patterns. There are, it's definitely important to know if you are an active trader because there are certain patterns that kind of reoccur. And so, in an effort to bring, free education, Ethan, I think, yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. And we'll do it. We will.
We will. I think we're going to shoot for Sundays to kind of be storytelling time or educational time, right? So we'll put some together and keep you guys updated.
All right. So let's go over Nvidia and some GameStop updates. Nvidia, I'll share my screen here. I did it. I did what I didn't want to do. We did have plus 10 here. Now we have plus 7 because I sold
We took
4
some
positions
profit.
and I made a tiny bit of profit, but I haven't profit totally. I'm still in the red on the trade. I don't let's go to positions here, view transaction history. So I purchased the 10 shares and the total purchase price for that, let's see here. The total purchase price was $5,400. Okay. And then today, after using some chat GPT analysis on several updates throughout the day, I decided that I was going to take some modest profit from it to try to hedge some bets because the play was that it was I believe it was at 117. If it stayed at 117, that I needed to trim off 2 to 3 contracts because it was trading around 114 around midday, and the idea was that if it met and broke through that resistance floor and broke into $113 per share territory, I was going to leave it alone and just hold all the positions. But because it had such a strong recovery back up to 117 and then stood around that time or that price point, I decided to trim off 2 contracts, and that left me being in the hole still on the trade, $1,050. So we've got 7 more contracts to play with. I could have sold them all to be green, but I still think that Nvidia is higher on the sell side than it is on the buy side. And so the plan is to hold that and see what happens tomorrow. The plan tomorrow is that at open, if it bounces up to 118 and then holds at 118, I'm going to trim off some more. But I'm hoping that there'll be some more sell pressure in the morning. But either way, unrealized gains were still profitable. But I want to try to capture a little bit more. And today the gains were modest again, but they were present. I did not lose any money, so we're looking good. And
Yeah.
I wanted to read this quote from Techniques of tape reading that I've been reading, and let's pull it up on the screen here so everybody can read along here. But what stood out to me was this paragraph here. Um, he starts off. He's been talking about stop losses for this particular chapter, but he goes on to say nobody wants to be a fool or a loser, and that's where our ego takes over immediately. It tries to save us from this unpleasant feeling. So the next step naturally will be to think, I'm not a loser. Those sellers are the losers. The stock will reverse in a minute and they'll be crying. I will be celebrating. See how the ego takes us farther from the territory, making us believe that our map is correct. And there's a way to avoid this. We need to change the original belief with which we approach the market. Let's look at our thinking process if we come to the market with the idea that I don't have to know what the market does next. So the idea is that I don't have to know what the market does next. What I do have to know is what will I do in any scenario that the market offers. So that was the point that stood out to me is number one, get your ego out of it, and that um, we've harped on it several times where we say, choose a price point, make that your exit, and stick to that plan. But beyond that, I really like the quote where we don't have to know what the market does next. So I'm very like, you're technical analysis focused. I'm much more fundamentals focused and reading into the psychology of the market, and the psychology of people, since I feel like that will drive the market. But we don't have to predict what the market does next. We just have to know what will I do in whatever scenario that the market offers. So reflecting back on Nvidia today, had my ego been in it, I wouldn't have sold any contracts. I would have said I'm going to make the maximum profit. I'm not going to pull away from this. I'm not going to be a loser, but I decided don't let my ego get into it completely and take a little bit of profit and then hold on to a little bit so I can continue to adjust to how the market is moving. So that was
No.
the Nvidia update, kind of where we're at there. And then for GameStop, I have general GameStop news as a company. This was some very interesting stats that I came across, and it's the institutional ownership over the past couple of quarters. The institutional ownership has continued to rise. And we're at a point now where the institutional ownership is at the highest that it's ever been. It looks well, at least since December of 2019.
Wow.
So lots of folks buying in, lots of institutions buying in. Not sure what's driving that. Not sure if that's fundamental belief on the institutional side, or there's also a theory that institutional investors are buying in order to help roll calls or whatever. But that's roll short positions. But that's the conspiracy folks talking. And we can't always believe what the conspiracists say. We can always consider what they say, and that's it's very enjoyable to like consider conspiracies because it makes you feel like you're a person who's on the inside, a little bit more. So you kind of fulfill that ego drive. But that's I mean, no matter what, institutional investors are piling in on it. So
Yeah, institutional ownership is really big. I know a lot of active traders that kind of build that into their analysis of a company when they're trying to put together like a trading plan. They want to make sure that there is a good amount of institutional ownership. And basically, what that does is if you have a bunch of institutional ownership, as far as the free float, meaning how many shares are actually available for you and I to trade, that amount dwindles with more institutional ownership, right? And so if you get a lot of buying pressure and there's less available, shares to be traded, it can make more movement in the stock, right? And then also with the institutional ownership aspect of it, kind of like what you said, right? If you have a lot of people buying that are on the inside, what do they know? right? If you have a CEO who's selling shares of his company, that's not a good sign, right? He thinks it's overpriced. But if you have institutional ownership buying up a company, like what you just shared there with GME, I mean, that's the highest it's been in 5 years. That's pretty significant. So I think that in conjunction with a lot of the and news that we've been getting about Bitcoin and GameStop investing into that is kind of interesting that those two things are tying together.
Yeah, I definitely would. I would call it bullish, one could say.
Yeah, one could call it bullish. Yes, I would have to agree with that. And real quick, just to come back to what you were saying earlier about, getting your ego out of it. There is a fantastic set of books by a guy named Mark Douglas. He wrote The Disciplined Trader and Trading in the Zone. I've read both of them and they are fantastic. And he kind of highlights some of the things you were saying, right? Where it's like, whether the market goes up and down, you got to have your edge and you have to take your emotion out of it and you have to play your probability and know where to get in and get out. And he says a whole lot more than that, but kind of on that same theme that you were touching on there. So if you're interested in digging into more of what Ethan was talking about, that is a great author.
And then my last point will be looking out for Powell's speech on Friday. We've got a big speech coming from Mr. Jerome and
Daddy Powell.
Daddy Powell, Boss Powell,
Boss Powell.
and our boy Michael Wilcox.
He's back.
His call sign.
He's been working hard.
He's been working hard. He's got something prepared for it, and he let me know that what we need to look at is Powell's last words at the House Financial Services testimony were very clear. He said, "We need more confidence that inflation is sustainably coming down." So Friday's report will tell us if that confidence is growing or if it's eroding. So if it's too strong, Powell sticks to his higher for longer script. If it's weak, the market's going to start smelling a May cut instead of a June. So we can also look for weaker than expected jobs if you want to see the markets rally. Too strong, and we're going to push back cuts further out. So be ready. But a couple other things to look at are non-farm payrolls, NFP. If they're above 200,000, that's too strong. Markets might panic about rate cuts. If it's within 150,000 to 200,000, that's neutral. And then below 150,000, weakness is showing. So the market might rally on that, on odds or on increased odds of a May cut. And then unemployment rate, current expectation is 3.7%. A move higher could push rates sooner, and then a drop back to 3.6 or lower. That's bad for the rate cut, folks, because that suggests that the economy is still running too hot. And then wage growth, we want that to slow because that gives the Fed breathing room, and that's bullish for risky assets. So some of the market impacts and plays. On the bond market, a strong report means yields pop. So while a weak one could trigger a rally in treasuries, a stronger one could be bullish for the bond market. And then the stock market, SPY and QQQ would likely sell off if the labor market looks too strong. And that's because there would be fewer rate cuts. And then the gold and Bitcoin, a weak jobs numbers could fuel safe haven demand into gold and Bitcoin. So if you got a weak jobs number, you're going to look for people who are looking for safe havens. So they would be looking for that off of the stock market and into Bitcoin and into crypto. So those are some things to look out for.
Yeah.
What
To your point
what
with
do you
yeah, to your point with safe havens, right? One thing I've been keeping an eye on that I've been seeing getting some attention in the trading community is ticker symbol SLV. That is the iShares Silver Trust ETF by BlackRock. So basically, it's an ETF for silver, which is, any of those precious metals are going to be a safe haven along with, bonds, right? So gold, silver, people are going to be looking at that. They're going to be looking at bonds. But right now, SLV is trading above the 200-day moving average, the 50, the 20, the 10. It looks bullish on a daily chart right now. It's currently trading at 29.77 with a 52-week high of 31.80. So it's not that far off from it. So it looks bullish. So something to keep an eye on if some of those numbers that Ethan just talked about come in hot. And also keep in mind, we are exactly 2 weeks away from the Fed rate decision. Ethan, we might have to do a special episode for that. I know that Michael Wilcox is going to be busy for that March 19th date. But yeah, that Fed rate decision is looming.
Yeah. He's going to be picking up bubblegum wrappers everywhere he can, just following Jerome around.
Sniffing them, trying to
Sniffing
see
them.
if you can smell the fear. Yeah. Yeah, so, smack dab middle of the week, we got a lot going on. And this is why I love the market. It's always something new. Things are always changing. And yeah, we'll see what the rest of the week looks like. Just to kind of wrap it up here, unless you got something else, Ethan. As of right now, SPY is, bouncing right off of that 200-day moving average. We'll see what tomorrow looks like with some of this data coming out. If it gets hit again, but we had a nice bullish day today, which is good for the market, right off that 200-day moving average on quite a bit of volume there. So we'll have to see what the rest of the week looks like. It's fun to make predictions, but I would rather react to what happens. So yeah, I think there's more of a probability of having a trade idea turn in your favor when you're not trying to predict market moves, but instead you're reacting to them. So let's see what happens tomorrow. If we break below that, if we close below the 200-day moving average tomorrow, things could get real ugly. But if we, get a nice bounce up tomorrow, the market might get a little reprieve. But I think things are just going to be shaky heading into that Fed rate decision. So I think that's about all we got, Ethan. We did start a Discord channel for those who are interested. It is called Michael Wilcox's Van. So we will, share the link in the show notes. Feel free to join that. We're going to be building that out. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. And we got big plans for that to continue to grow the community. As a reminder, we are on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Please follow, leave a comment, like and subscribe on YouTube. Helps the channel out. And we will be back in action, I believe, on Sunday to give a recap of what we saw this week here on Thursday and Friday to come, and see what we could be looking at for the week ahead. Anything else, Ethan?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, plan the trade and trade the plan.